So last week I did a video with my first impressions of Pagan Online, the newly released action RPG from Wargaming. I talked about the game, what I thought about the introductory experience, the graphics, the combat, and the game overall. Since I didn't really delve all that far into the game as it had just launched into early access and I wanted to get a video out as soon as I could with my opinions, I figured now was pretty much as good a time as any to take a deeper look. Thus, I spent a few additional hours in game trying out new things, talking to some other players that recognized me after I posted my first video, and proceeding to get my ass kicked by bosses because I was still going at it alone. Now, like I mentioned in my last video, the only reason I was actually able to play the game initially was because it was sponsored by Wargaming, so again, thank you for that opportunity. If you want to play the game, then it has officially launched now, and you are capable of using my link down in the description or the pinned comment to buy the game on Steam. Now, let's talk about my experience. I've played my fair share of action games over the years, but never have I experienced such a steep increase in difficulty over such a short time frame as I did in Pagan. See, I love difficult games, they're fun for me. They require you utilize strategy, timing, they promote thinking, planning your attacks out, making careful use of your cooldowns to manage your possible need of escape. In Pagan, every new mission that I went on was slightly more difficult than the last, and you're not guaranteed an upgrade in gear during or after each mission either. I hadn't changed my weapon in over like 2 hours, I think, which initially had me one-shotting every single monster I had encountered, granted, but ultimately I ended up not really finding any weapons that were of improvement over what I already had. Now, that's not to say that there aren't a lot of items or weapons that drop. I just had a really good goddamn weapon. This, however, led me to having a little difficulty with some of the more powerful boss fights I had to get through, but it's boss fights like that, which took me, man, I don't even know how long I was at this one boss fight for. I think it was like over 30 minutes. It was insane. By the time it was over, my fingers were numb from mashing my long-range attacks to attempt to retain distance from the boss and conserve my resources, and by the end of it, I was a little cross-eyed from circling the room like literally over 1,000 or so times. But it was fulfilling in a way you don't normally experience, and it's reasons like that that I believe that this game really shines. I've played through some games that are similar to Pagan in genre that were pretty easy. Like, they got more difficult as the game went on, but initially, they were very easy. Pagan just up and throws you right into the game and you're left fending for yourself. Thankfully, the game does promote cooperative play because, and I can say this from experience, the game is difficult, even more so when you're alone. Unfortunately, I did not have the opportunity to party up with anyone as the level discrepancy between us all was too large and my wife had too much to catch up on, so I ended up doing it alone. All of it. But that is not to say that the game is solo or should even be done solo. It's multiplayer friendly, and overall I believe that every game should be experienced with a friend or a loved one. Going through games solo, you know, like, that can be fun, sure, but personally, I enjoy sharing first-time experiences with my wife, so having her along for most of the rides I go on is pretty much a prerequisite at this point. Worth noting is that in my initial video I mentioned that only 2-player co-op was available. However, I found out that Wargaming are working on implementing 4-player co-op into the game at a later date to allow for more dynamic situations and hero compositions to take place. For those of you that were under the impression that they would only ever be allowed to play with one other person, you're going to be happy to know that the game will support up to 3 other players. I'm sure this will make for some very interesting encounters as there are a lot of heroes to play as. I personally ended up playing as Eldon because, well, I mean, you know, he was just a dude that had dual weapons and he threw ice lances at enemies, and I thought that was pretty sick, and it seemed like a playstyle that I would like to invest a little time into learning. Thankfully, as if you recall, I did mention that I spent a lot of time long distance kiting bosses and enemies attempting to survive. He was admittedly not the kind of hero that I thought he was initially. Like, I felt he would play as some kind of ninja assassin dude when in reality, he played more like an archer that could use like dual daggers close range if absolutely necessary. He had a ton of mobility to utilize the ability to repeatedly freeze enemies, making them not only immobile, but completely unable to attack for the entire duration of the status effect. making bosses, I guess, a little easier at times, even if the effects only lasted a short while. Well, I mean, you know, it made most bosses a little easier. There were certain boss fights where bosses were immune to all loss of control effects, even slows. It was at times like this that I wished that I had chosen a tanky hero that could just like sit there and tank the boss's attacks, which I guess honestly it is definitely a possibility, as you can unlock every single hero and change to them to suit the encounter as required. It just takes some time and investment, which I did not have to unlock yet. But that will not stop me on my journey through the game, as I am curious to try out several of those badass looking mages as well, what with me being a mage main in pretty much every game I have ever played. Unfortunately, I did not play as much as I would have wanted to between the early access and the official launch of the game, but I did want to give you guys my overall opinion on what I had experienced in my over 10 hours worth of playing. That way you can take the little bit of information and insight that I've offered and possibly make a more informed decision on whether or not you should go about purchasing the game. I had a lot of fun, and I plan on continuing to play the game on my journey to max level. I may start over so I can play with Mrs. STIX if she wants to try the game out with me, or maybe I'll just try to continue going it alone, even if that's a terrible decision. I don't know. We'll see. Regardless, I hope those of you that have tried the game out have had fun doing so. Maybe you can like add me as a friend and we can party up and play together. I'm sure it'd make for a lot of fun to be had. Again, if you're interested in trying out the game, you can go right ahead and use my link in the description to buy this game on Steam. But that is just my overall opinion, my final impressions of the game for the time being. What do you guys think? Are you excited for it? Are you looking forward to eventually trying it out? Or do you even want to? Let me know in the comments below and let's talk about it. Anyway guys, that is it for me. Thanks for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to subscribe for more content like this, and I'll see you all next time. Peace.